Greetings, night owls and brave listeners. Today we're going to dive into something dark. Something that shouldn't be spoken out loud. But hey, you came here to scare. So here we go.
The village that won't let him go, a terrifying truth unravels. Part 1, The Dream of Escape. The morning sun barely pierced the thick fog that clung to Willow Hollow, a sleepy village nestled in a cradle of dense forest and rolling hills. Ethan, a lanky 19-year-old with a mop of chestnut hair and a restless spirit, stood in his cramped bedroom, staring at a tattered suitcase. Tomorrow was his 20th birthday, the day he'd vowed to leave this suffocating place, just like his older brother Caleb had 3 years ago. Caleb's letters from the city, full of neon lights, bustling streets, and freedom, had fueled Ethan's dreams for years. But Caleb's letters stopped abruptly 6 months ago, and Ethan hadn't heard from him since. "Probably just busy," Ethan muttered, shoving a pair of jeans into the suitcase. His parents, Martha and Jonah, were downstairs, their voices a low hum over the clatter of breakfast dishes. Martha, with her warm smile and flour-dusted apron, called up, "Ethan, come eat. Pancakes won't stay hot forever." Jonah, a broad-shouldered man with a weathered face, chuckled, "Don't make your mother beg, son." They were the picture of rural normalcy, the kind of parents who'd always been there, maybe too there, always hovering, always asking where he was going. Ethan brushed it off, it was just small-town life. He grabbed his jacket and headed downstairs, the suitcase left open on his bed, a promise of tomorrow. That evening, the village held its annual harvest supper in the town hall. The air smelled of roasted corn and apple cider, and neighbors laughed under strings of fairy lights. Ethan sat with his best friend, Lila, a sharp-witted girl with freckles and a knack for fixing engines. "You're really leaving tomorrow?" she asked, her eyes searching his. Ethan nodded, his heart racing with the thrill of it. "City's waiting. I'm done with milking cows and dodging horse crap." Lila laughed, but her smile faltered. "Just be careful, okay? The roads out of here can be tricky." Ethan shrugged, chalking it up to her usual overprotectiveness. The next morning, his 20th birthday, Ethan woke to the sound of his mother humming in the kitchen. He packed the last of his things, kissed her cheek, and hugged his father, who clapped him on the back a little too hard. "We're proud of you, son," Jonah said, his eyes oddly glossy. Ethan grabbed his suitcase and headed to the village's only bus stop, a rickety bench by the main road. But when he got there, a handwritten sign was nailed to a post, "Bus service suspended due to road maintenance. Next bus, TBD." Ethan frowned, his stomach twisting. He'd checked the schedule yesterday, it was fine. Shrugging, he decided to hitchhike. The city was only 50 miles away, he'd find a way. Part 2, The First Roadblock. Ethan stood by the road, thumb out, as the morning chill seeped through his jacket. Cars were rare in Willow Hollow, but he figured a farmer or delivery truck would pass eventually. Hours ticked by, and the road stayed empty. Finally, a pickup truck rattled into view, Mr. Grayson, the gas station owner, his face etched with worry. "Ethan, you shouldn't be out here," he said, leaning out the window. "Roads blocked a mile up. Landslide. Nobody's getting through today." Ethan's heart sank. A landslide? The weather had been dry for weeks. He asked to see it, but Grayson shook his head. "Too dangerous. Go home, kid. Try tomorrow." Frustrated but undeterred, Ethan trudged back to the village. His parents were oddly calm when he told them. "These things happen," Martha said, stirring a pot of stew. "Stay for dinner. We'll celebrate your birthday proper." The table was set with his favorites, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. Jonah poured him a glass of cider, his grip lingering on Ethan's shoulder. "No rush to leave, son. The city'll still be there." Ethan forced a smile, but something in his father's tone felt off, like a note played wrong on a piano. That night, he lay awake, replaying the day. A suspended bus, a landslide, it was bad luck, sure, but nothing more. He'd try again tomorrow. He didn't notice the faint creak of the floorboards outside his room or the shadow that lingered under his door. Part 3, Lila's Plea. Day 2 dawned gray and heavy. Ethan decided to borrow Lila's old motorcycle, figuring it could handle smaller backroads. He found her at the garage, elbow deep in a tractor engine. "Lila, I need your bike," he said, his voice urgent. She wiped her hands, her expression unreadable. "Ethan, I need your help first. My dad's sick, and I can't move him to the clinic alone." Ethan hesitated. Lila's father, Old Man Tate, was a gruff widower who'd always treated him like family. "Fine," Ethan said, "but then I'm gone." They spent hours getting Tate to the clinic, where Doc Harrow, a wiry man with too many teeth, assured them he'd handle it. By the time they finished, it was dusk. "Stay the night," Lila urged. "The forest roads are bad after dark." Ethan shook his head, stubborn. He climbed onto the motorcycle, but when he turned the key, it sputtered and died. "Battery's shot," Lila said, almost too quickly. "I'll fix it tomorrow." Ethan's jaw tightened. Another delay. He stormed home, ignoring Lila's calls. At dinner, his parents were all smiles, but their cheer felt forced, like actors in a play. "Lila's a good girl," Martha said. "She cares about you." Ethan barely ate, his mind on the city. He didn't see the glance his parents exchanged or the way Jonah's hand trembled as he poured more cider. Part 4, with a broken bridge. On day 3, Ethan decided to walk. There was an old footbridge over the river that led to a secondary road. He packed a backpack and set out at dawn, avoiding his parents' questions. The forest was eerily quiet, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. When he reached the bridge, his heart stopped. The wooden planks were splintered, the ropes frayed and snapped. It looked like someone had taken an axe to it. "What the hell?" he whispered, kicking a loose board into the churning river below. He backtracked to the village, fury rising. At the general store, he confronted Mrs. Callie, the shopkeeper, who was sweeping the porch. "Who wrecked the bridge?" he demanded. She blinked, her face blank. "Oh, Ethan, that bridge has been out for years. You know that." Her voice was too sweet, her smile too wide. Ethan's skin prickled. He didn't remember the bridge being damaged before. Was he losing it? He bought a soda, noticing how Mrs. Callie's eyes followed him out the door. That night, his parents were waiting up. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Jonah said, his voice low. "Stay put for a bit. The world's not going anywhere." Ethan snapped, "I'm leaving tomorrow, no matter what." Martha's face crumpled, and she turned away, but not before Ethan saw something in her eyes, fear, or maybe something darker. Part 5, The Wild Dogs. Day 4. Ethan borrowed a bike from a neighbor, determined to take the forest trail. The path was narrow, overgrown, but passable. He pedaled hard, the city pulling him like a magnet. Halfway through the forest, a low growl stopped him cold. 3 wild dogs emerged from the brush, their eyes glinting, teeth bared. Ethan froze, heart pounding. He backed away slowly, but the dogs advanced, forcing him to abandon the bike and sprint back to the village. When he stumbled and smiled tight. Don't know what you're talking about, dear. Ethan's unease grew. He started noticing things. Neighbors watching him from windows, whispered conversations that stopped when he approached. His parents were always nearby, offering food, chores, excuses. Maybe you're not ready for the city, Martha said softly, her hands twisting in her apron. Ethan ignored her, planning his next move. Part 7: The Truth About Caleb. On day 6, Ethan found an old photo in the attic while looking for a map. It showed him and Caleb, arms around each other, grinning at a fair. On the back, in Caleb's handwriting, "Don't trust them. Get out before 20. Ethan's blood ran cold. Caleb hadn't made it to the city. He remembered his brother's sudden silence, the way his parents brushed it off. He confronted them that night. "Where's Caleb? What happened to him?" Martha burst into tears, and Jonah's face hardened. "He's fine, Ethan. Don't stir up trouble." But their voices cracked, and Ethan knew they were lying. He snuck into their room after they slept, finding a locked box under their bed. Inside were newspaper clippings about missing hikers, strange accidents, and a single photo of Caleb, his face bruised, tied to a chair. Ethan's stomach churned. He didn't sleep that night, clutching the photo, his brother's warning echoing in his head. Part 8: The Village's Secret. Day 7. Ethan overheard whispers at the tavern, talk of a cycle and the chosen. He cornered Lila, demanding answers. She looked away, her hands shaking. "Ethan, just stay. It's safer." Her voice broke, and she fled. That night, he followed her to a barn outside the village, where a group of elders, including his parents, gathered. Hidden in the shadows, Ethan heard words that made his skin crawl. The 21 days are almost up. If he doesn't leave, his hours. Like Caleb. The truth hit like a sledgehammer. The village had a ritual, a sick tradition of sacrificing those who tried to leave at 20. Caleb hadn't escaped, he'd failed, and they'd killed him. Ethan's parents, his neighbors, the people he'd trusted his whole life, were part of it. He ran home, heart racing, and packed his bag again. He had to leave, now. Part 9: The Trap Tightens. Day 8. Ethan tried to steal a car from the garage, but Lila caught him. "Don't do this," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand what they'll do." Ethan shoved past her, but the car's tires were slashed. He screamed in frustration, realizing the village was closing in. Everywhere he turned, someone was watching: Mrs. Callie at the store, Doc Harrow on his porch, even kids who stared too long. That night, his parents sat him down. "We love you, Ethan," Martha said, her voice trembling. "Stay with us. The city's no place for you." Jonah gripped his arm, his eyes wild. "You're our son. You belong here." Ethan yanked free, his fear turning to rage. "I'm leaving tomorrow," he spat. Martha sobbed, and Jonah's face darkened. As Ethan climbed the stairs, he heard a thud. Jonah had punched the wall, muttering, "He's forcing our hand." Part 10: The Fire That Consumed Hope. The dawn of day 9 broke with a crimson sky, the air thick with the acrid stench of smoke. Ethan woke to shouts and the distant crackle of flames. He bolted upright, heart pounding, and ran to his window. The barn where he'd hidden his borrowed bike was a roaring inferno, flames clawing at the sky like angry spirits. Villagers stood in a semicircle, their faces lit by the flickering glow, not lifting a finger to douse the fire. Mr. Grayson, the gas station owner, leaned on a rake, his expression blank. "Accident," he called out when he saw Ethan, his voice flat, his eyes cold as stone. "Old wiring, probably." Ethan's stomach twisted. The barn had been fine yesterday, and he'd checked the bike himself, no wiring issues. He sprinted to the barn, coughing through the smoke, desperate to salvage something. The bike was a charred skeleton, its frame melted into the ash. Ethan kicked at the debris, fury rising. "This wasn't an accident," he shouted, turning to the crowd. Mrs. Callie, the shopkeeper, tilted her head, her smile unnervingly serene. "Now, Ethan, don't go making trouble. Fires happen." Her voice was syrupy, but her fingers twitched, clutching a handkerchief stained with something dark. Ethan backed away, his skin crawling. He ran to Lila's house, pounding on the door. Old Man Tate answered, his face gaunt, eyes sunken. "She's gone, Ethan," he rasped. "Left this morning for her aunt's." Ethan's heart sank. Lila wouldn't leave without a word, she'd been his anchor, his confidant. He pushed past Tate, ignoring his protests, and searched Lila's room. Under her pillow, he found a crumpled note in her jagged handwriting, "I'm sorry. They made me." Ethan's hand shook as he read it again, the words searing into his mind. The villagers had gotten to her. He stumbled back to the house, his parents waiting in the kitchen. Martha's hands were bandaged, her eyes red. "Oh, Ethan, thank God you're safe," she said, pulling him into a hug that felt too tight, too desperate. Jonah stood by the stove, stirring coffee, his knuckles white. "You shouldn't run off like that," he said, not looking up. "Dangerous out there." Ethan pulled away, his mind racing. The fire, Lila's disappearance, his parents' strange calm, it was all connected. He locked his bedroom door that night, clutching a kitchen knife, unable to shake the image of the villagers' faces, their eyes gleaming in the firelight. Part 11, The Locked Door and the Whispers. Day 10 dawned cold, the air heavy with the scent of rain. Ethan woke to the sound of hammering. He tried his bedroom door, locked from the outside. Panic surged as he rattled the knob, shouting for his parents. Martha's voice came through, soft and trembling. "It's for your safety, Ethan. The roads are too dangerous today." He pounded on the door, his fists bruising. "Let me out," he yelled. Jonah's voice was low, almost a growl. "You're staying, son. That's final." Ethan's blood ran cold. He grabbed a chair and smashed the window, glass shattering onto the porch below. He climbed out, cutting his arm on a jagged shard, blood dripping onto the wood. He ran to the main road, only to find a massive oak tree blocking the path, its trunk freshly cut, sawdust scattered like a taunt. Ethan's breath hitched. This was no accident. He took a side trail, his sneakers sinking into the mud, but froze when he saw them, 5 village elders, including Doc Harrow, standing in a line, their faces grim. "Go home, Ethan," Doc Harrow said, his too-many teeth smile glinting. "You're not ready for the world out there." Ethan's voice shook. "What's wrong with you people? Why won't you let me leave?" The elders exchanged glances, and one, Old Man Tate, stepped forward, his cane tapping the ground. "It's for the village, boy. You'll understand soon." Ethan turned and ran, his heart hammering. Back at the house, he found his parents waiting, their faces pale. Martha's hands were freshly bandaged, blood seeping through. "I fell trying to fix the door," she said, her voice breaking. Jonah gripped Ethan's shoulder, his fingers digging in. "Stay put, son. We're your family." Ethan yanked free, his arm throbbing from the cut. He noticed a new lock on the front door, heavy and industrial, unlike anything in Willow Hollow. That night, he heard whispers outside his window, villagers, their voices low, chanting words he couldn't make out. He clutched the knife tighter, his hope fraying like a warm rope. Part 12, The Chase Through the Dark. Day 11 was a blur of fear and adrenaline. Ethan had barely slept, his dreams haunted by Caleb's face and the villagers' chants. He decided to hide in the forest, waiting for night to sneak past the village's watchful eyes. He packed a small bag, water, a flashlight, the photo of Caleb, and slipped out at dusk, avoiding the creaking floorboards. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows, the air thick with the scent of pine and decay. He moved quietly, his breath shallow, every snap of a twig sending his heart racing. At midnight, he heard them, footsteps, heavy and deliberate, crunching through the underbrush. Flashlights bobbed in the dark, casting eerie beams through the trees. "Ethan!" Jonah's voice boomed, raw and unhinged. "Come home, son. You're making this harder." Ethan crouched behind a fallen log, his pulse deafening. He saw silhouettes, Jonah, Mr. Grayson, and others, their faces twisted in the flickering light. "He's close," Mrs. Callie whispered, her voice sharp with excitement. "The cycle can't be broken." Ethan's stomach churned. "Cycle? What cycle?" He crept deeper into the forest, but his flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness, he stumbled into a clearing and froze. Lila was there, tied to a tree, her face bruised, her eyes wide with terror. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "They'll kill you. Run." Ethan fumbled with the ropes, his hands shaking, but the knots were tight, expertly tied. "Who did this?" he hissed. Lila's eyes filled with tears. "Your parents. Everyone. It's the ritual." Before he could free her, a branch snapped behind him. He turned to see Jonah, his face a mask of rage, a hunting knife gleaming in his hand. "You're ours, Ethan," he said, his voice trembling with something like sorrow. Ethan grabbed Lila's arm, half dragging her as they ran, the villagers' shouts echoing through the trees. They hid in a ditch, hearts pounding, as the flashlight swept past. Lila clung to him, sobbing. "I didn't want to betray you," she whispered. "They threatened my dad." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to believe her, but trust was slipping away. Part 13, The Betrayal That Broke Him. Day 12 brought a cold rain, soaking Ethan and Lila as they huddled in an abandoned shed on the village outskirts. The shed smelled of mold and rust, its walls lined with rusted tools. Lila was shaking, her clothes torn, her face pale. "I didn't want to," she said, her voice breaking. "They made me tell them where you were. They said they'd kill my dad if I didn't." Ethan's chest ached. He wanted to scream, to shake her, but her tears were real, her fear palpable. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice low. Lila looked away. "I thought I could protect you. I thought, maybe you'd stay." Before Ethan could respond, the shed door burst open. Jonah stood there, rain dripping from his hat, his eyes wild. "Enough running, Ethan," he growled, stepping inside. Behind him were Mr. Grayson and Doc Harrow, their faces grim. Ethan grabbed a rusty shovel, swinging it wildly, but Jonah tackled him, pinning him to the ground. "You're staying," Jonah said, his breath hot on Ethan's face. "You belong to the village." Lila screamed, lunging at Jonah, but Doc Harrow grabbed her, twisting her arm until she cried out. They tied Ethan's hands, dragging him back to the village, Lila's sobs echoing in his ears. Back at the house, Martha was waiting, her hands trembling, fresh cuts on her arms. "We didn't want this," she said, tears streaming. But you left us no choice. Ethan's voice cracked. What did you do to Caleb? Martha flinched and Jonah's face darkened. He didn't listen either, Jonah said, his voice low. Don't make us lose you too. Ethan was locked in his room again, the windows boarded now, the air heavy with the smell of his mother's blood. He realized Lila's betrayal wasn't her choice, but it didn't matter. The village had turned everyone against him. Part 14, The Ritual's Gruesome Truth. Day 13. Ethan was moved to the town hall basement, a cold, damp room lit by a single flickering bulb. The walls were etched with strange symbols, spirals, crosses, and names, dozens of them, scratched into the stone. Ethan's hands were still bound, his body aching from the struggle. Doc Harrow visited, carrying a leather case that clinked ominously. You're part of something bigger, Ethan, he said, his smile sickening. He opened the case, revealing a knife with a blade etched with runes, its handle stained dark. This is tradition. Every 20 years, one must stay. It keeps the village safe. Ethan's stomach churned. Safe from what? He demanded. Harrow's smile widened. From the world. From change. From everything that threatens us. He leaned closer, his breath sour. Caleb fought too. Screamed until the end. Didn't help. Ethan's vision blurred with tears as he pictured his brother, tied down, the knife cutting into him. You're monsters, he spat. Harrow chuckled. We're family, Ethan. You'll see. He left, locking the door, leaving Ethan with the knife's image burned into his mind. He clawed at the ropes, his wrists raw, desperation clawing at his chest. He had to escape, or he'd end up like Caleb. Part 15, The Desperate Escape. Day 14. Ethan spent hours working at a loose brick in the basement wall, his fingers bleeding as he pried it free. He used it to smash the lock, the sound echoing like a gunshot. He slipped out, heart pounding, and ran to the church, the only place he hadn't tried. The old building was dark, its pews covered in dust. In the back, he found a locked cabinet. Breaking it open, he discovered records, ledgers listing names, dates, and chilling notes, failed to leave. Cycle completed. Caleb's name was there, dated 3 years ago, with a single word, sacrificed. Ethan's knees buckled. His brother hadn't escaped. He'd been butchered. He stole a horse from the stables, a sturdy mare named Daisy, and saddled her in the dark. Come on, girl, he whispered, his hands shaking. He rode toward the forest, the night air cold against his skin. The village was quiet, but he felt eyes watching from every shadow. He clutched the reins, Caleb's photo in his pocket, a reminder of why he couldn't fail. Part 16, The Horse's Tragic Fall. Day 15. The forest trail was treacherous, roots and rocks hidden in the dark. Ethan urged Daisy forward, her hooves pounding the earth. But halfway through, she let out a pained scream, stumbling. Ethan fell, his head slamming into the ground, stars bursting in his vision. When he came to, Daisy was thrashing, her leg caught in a hidden wire stretched across the path. Blood poured from the wound, her leg broken. Ethan's heart broke as he cut her free, but she couldn't stand. He sobbed, stroking her muzzle as she wheezed. Footsteps approached. Martha emerged from the trees, her arm in a sling, her face streaked with dirt and blood. I fell looking for you, she said, her voice shaking. Stay, Ethan. Please. Her eyes were wild, her hands clutching a rope. Ethan backed away, his head throbbing. You did this, he said, pointing to the wire. Martha's face crumpled, but she didn't deny it. "We love you," she whispered, stepping closer. Ethan ran, leaving Daisy behind, his guilt and fear choking him. The forest seemed to close in, the trees whispering with the voices of the village. Part 17. The Mob's Frenzy. Day 16. The villagers were done hiding their intent. Ethan woke in a ditch, his body aching, his clothes soaked from the rain. He heard shouts, dozens of voices, growing louder. He peered over the edge and saw them, a mob of villagers, led by Jonah, wielding pitchforks, knives, and torches. Mrs. Callie was at the front, her face twisted with fanaticism. "It's for the village," she screamed, her voice shrill. "The cycle must complete." Ethan's blood froze. They weren't just stopping him, they were hunting him. He ran, branches tearing at his skin, his breath ragged. He planned to swim downstream, hoping it would lead to the highway. But as he waded in, he saw them, his parents, standing on the bank, their clothes torn, their bodies blooded. Martha's hands were broken, fingers twisted at unnatural angles. Jonah's leg was mangled, blood soaking his pants. "We hurt ourselves to stop you," Martha sobbed, her voice raw. "You're our son. You can't leave." Jonah's eyes were feverish, his knife trembling in his hand. The village Day 20. Ethan reached the village edge, the highway a faint glimmer in the distance. He was exhausted, his body bruised, his arm infected from the glass cut. But hope flickered, freedom was close. Then he saw it, a barricade of cars and logs, villagers standing guard, their torches casting a hellish glow. Lila was there, her hands bound, her face pale. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking. Before he could reach her, Doc Harrow grabbed her, his knife flashing. "A warning," he said, and slit her throat, blood spraying as she collapsed. Ethan screamed, his voice raw, as the villagers chanted, "The cycle! The cycle!" He ran, his legs burning, tears blinding him. Lila's death was a message, stay or die. He hid in a ditch, his mind reeling. The villagers weren't just stopping him, they were willing to kill their own to keep the ritual alive. He clutched Caleb's photo, whispering, "I'll make it, for you." Tomorrow was his last chance. He wouldn't let them win. Part 20. The 21st Day's End. Day 21. Ethan stole a truck from the garage, its keys left in the ignition as if taunting him. He floored it toward the highway, the engine roaring. Behind him, cars screeched into pursuit, villagers screaming like a pack of wolves. Jonah and Martha were in the lead, Jonah's face a mask of rage, Martha clutching a knife, her bandaged hands trembling. "Stop, Ethan," she screamed, her voice breaking. The truck swerved as a tire blew, sabotaged, Ethan realized, his heart sinking. He crashed into a ditch, the impact jarring his bones. He crawled out, blood dripping from a gash on his forehead. The mob surrounded him, their faces twisted with zeal. Jonah stepped forward, his knife raised. "It's time," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Ethan fought, kicking and screaming, but there were too many. Mrs. Callie held his arms, her nails digging into his skin. "For the village," she whispered, her eyes gleaming. As the knife fell, Ethan saw Caleb's face in his mind, his brother's warning too late. The world went black, and Willow Hollow's cycle claimed another soul. The village returned to its eerie calm the next day, the blood washed away, the chant silenced. Martha and Jonah mourned, but their tears were for the village's survival, not their son. Willow Hollow's cycle continued, its secret buried with Ethan, waiting for the next to dare escape.